What if, the dragon that changed everything, Tensura Fanfiction, author, ErogonWolf, a dragon floated through the infinite void, drifting into the very space where Veldanava was creating the world. Just as the creator put the finishing touches on his work, a deal was made. Seals were placed, and a new world awaited exploration. Eons later, a certain slime and his manas began to examine the void itself. Ciel discovered a mysterious door that Veldanava had sealed shut, viewing it as a challenge to overcome. However, unknown to her, the world beyond that door holds a power even stronger than her master. What chaos will be unleashed when the gate is finally opened? Chapter 8. Summoning the Beast in the Ice Palace. 20 years had passed since Guy informed Elena about the birthday celebration for Milam, who had been born only a month prior. In Erogon and Elena's room, Eragon's black veil was lifted. He remained in his dragon form, his wings dormant. In this still state, his elemental wings, for example, his flame wings, looked like charcoal with red flames flickering within them. "So, is he going to wake up soon?" asked Guy. "Yeah," said Elena, "but it looks like he is recovering magicals, and it's almost done." "So he named someone or something," whispered Guy, noticing Eragon's flame wings starting to flare, though no heat radiated from them. Erogon slowly opened his eyes, seeing two souls in front of him before his vision adjusted to recognize Elena and Guy. "Morning, you two," he said, shifting into his human form. "So, what did I miss?" He casually dodged a punch from Guy. "Well," said Elena, as Erogon continued dodging Guy's punches by a few millimeters, "in 10 years we're invited to Milam's birthday party. That's Velda's kid. Also, Guy found out what you did during his fight with a person named Rudra." "Oh, the true hero," said Erogon, intentionally missing a dodge and taking a gut punch. "Yeah, I deserved that." "So you admit it," said Guy, pissed. "Anything else to say?" "Well, I did return what I shaved off," said Erogon. "Turned out I didn't need that power." Another punch was thrown, but Erogon caught it. "Let's stop for now. If I start getting serious, I might piss off Velzard." "True. With your power, you might destroy the entire ice palace with just your aura," said Guy. "I'll have Rain make some tea, and we can talk about your punishment." "True, and I have to find a suitable location to do a summoning, or I might face a backlash in a few days," Erogon said, scratching the back of his head as both Elena and Guy tilted their heads in confusion. A few moments passed. In one of Guy's meeting rooms, a table was set with tea and 4 seats. One was already occupied by Velzard, who was already drinking. "Well, you're finally awake and moving around, Erogon," said Velzard. "He may be a true dragon, but he never shows his true dragon haki. If I had to rank us in power, Erogon would tie with my older brother, then me, then Velgrand, and then that idiot younger brother of mine, Veldora. I hate to say this, but your assumption is wrong," said Erogon, sitting at the table. "If we count the true dragons that are asleep from my world, there are at least 2 more in slumber." "Wait, there are 2 more out in the world?" Guy asked, startled, as he sat down with Elena. "So you located both Baroki and Zen," said Elena. "So our children are what, exactly?" "Dragonoids like Milam," said Erogon. "And you two don't have to worry, they're not even awake yet. A simple search spell or true dragon haki isn't even going to wake them up. That is why I keep my haki suppressed." "I see," said both Guy and Velzard. "But if they were awake, what would the order be from strongest to weakest?" asked Velzard. "Let me think," Erogon pondered. "It would be me at full strength, then Veldanava, then you, Velzard, followed by Elena, then Velgrand, followed by my brother Baroki, then probably Veldora, and finally my youngest brother, Zen." "And in your current situation?" asked Guy. "Probably below Elena here," Erogon said, pointing at her. "Wait, really?" shouted Elena, looking at him. "Yeah," said Erogon. "I realized that when I was working on that little project of mine. And I also have to summon Tiamat in a few days." Elena, Guy, Velzard, Misery, and Rain all looked at Erogon with a "what the fuck" expression. "You're kidding, right, Erogon?" Elena said, her face pissed as she stared daggers at him. "Before you speak," Guy said, feeling a migraine coming on, "is this part of your deal to use her power?" "Yeah," said Erogon. "I was planning to summon her last, but then that project got in the way. Now I have to summon her next." "Do you have the chains ready?" asked Elena. "Chains?" thought Guy. "Yeah, Through Caster I have access to them, said Erogon. The throne changed dramatically when I came to this world. As long as I summon one from that class, I have access to all of those servants' abilities. Any person's abilities. Does that make you overpowered? Asked Guy. Not really, Erogon pouted, making Elena chuckle. The body has to survive the backlash from the ability. Explain, said Velzard. Erogon picked up a teacup. Picture this teacup as me and the magicals I can use, he said as they nodded. If I use an offensive skill, it's fine, he drank from the cup. Defensive skills are a different matter. Any other skills will create a backlash like this. Erogon created a stream of tea that exceeded the cup's capacity, causing it to spill over. Now you see the issue. As Misery cleaned the table, Guy noted, I see. It causes damage to your own body. Erogon nodded. So why is this Tiamat so much of a problem? Asked Rain before Guy or Velzard could speak. Erogon grinned. The problem is her insane magical capacity. She can have 5 dragon reactors active at once for creating magicals. And that's just one of her simple abilities. Then there is her strongest ability, her Nega Genesis. Nega? Said Velzard. Genesis? Said Guy. It's the skill I use to shave off small fragments from all human souls, said Erogon. That was a very small portion of the skill's real power. He paused. It's an ultimate skill that can rewrite all living creatures and create entirely new life. It forms a barrier around the wielder and destroys anything it touches, even if they have a resistance to ultimate skills. That is a dangerous ability, said Guy. No wonder you wanted to summon her last. But I have no choice in the matter, said Erogon. I'm on a clock, so to speak. How long do you have? Asked Elena. Before the backlash of the deal takes place? 5 days, said Erogon. I will probably summon her in the courtyard of this castle. It's spacious enough. So he's planning to use the courtyard. How big is this circle he's planning to make? Thought Guy. That's fine, but I will be there to see this. That's fine. Erogon dropped a barrel behind him from his storage skill. This barrel contains the materials for the summoning. It's mercury, so it's highly toxic for humans. Guy motioned to Rain to move the barrel to the courtyard, with Elena following behind. I'll help you carve the circle, Elena said, leaving Guy, Erogon, and Velzard alone. With the 3 currently most powerful entities in the world in one room, the silence was so heavy a pin drop could have been heard from a distance. So, what is the real reason? Guy asked, glancing at Erogon. Erogon sighed. The reason is she can be quite temperamental when people disrespect her. And with her magicals, she can create an army of mindless creatures in a matter of minutes. Mindless monsters aren't that strong, said Velzard. Even an army of them. I knew you would say that, said Erogon. Each of them has the power level of a lesser dragon. In 1 minute, you're talking about 50,000 of them. And that's just 1 minute. Imagine if she took her time and waited to strike. I see the problem, said Guy. How long does she usually wait? Depends, said Erogon. For example, over 20 years, I would estimate about 30 trillion forces, and about a third could easily fly. And they are all at lesser dragon level power. Is that a skill or an innate ability of hers? Asked Velzard. An innate ability, said Erogon. Her title was the Goddess of Life and the Primordial Mother. When she became a beast of humanity, those titles became the skill known as the Sea of Life. That is the skill that creates the creatures and can corrupt anyone and anything that touches it. Corrupts? Guy asked, his interest piqued. If someone touches the Sea of Life skill or the mud it produces, their body and soul blacken until they only follow the orders of the one who made the mud. Previous friends and allies won't matter, said Erogon. Both Guy and Velzard realized the true terror of that skill. That is a truly terrifying skill, said Velzard. Erogon continued, then there's the other part. If that person is not destroyed completely, both body and soul, they will constantly regenerate within seconds. In my old world, we had to destroy the body until not even a hair remained. As Erogon's words sank in, Guy asked, how can she be killed? What are her tolerances? Erogon stayed silent for a few minutes. What I am about to say must be taken literally. They both nodded. From her time as the Primordial Mother, she had a skill that turned into a tolerance where she can take damage but cannot die unless all life on the planet is dead. That is insanity, said Guy. So how was she defeated before? She allowed it to happen, said Erogon. Now for the last question before midnight, said Velzard. What are beasts of humanity? Well, that's an easy question, Erogon replied. Beasts of humanity are a concept created by the planet. In my old world, the planet itself had an ego to protect itself. And yeah, this world does too, he added, answering the question before they could speak. It's still in its infancy, but that's off topic. The beasts are beings, or in this case, a goddess, that both love and hate humanity. Due to this contradiction, they lose sight of their love and it turns into an insatiable desire to change the world. There are about 7 in total, each representing a different sin of humanity as a whole. So they're not like the human 7 sins? Asked Guy. Like greed, pride, envy, and sloth. Some are similar, but not all, said Erogon. The first. I forget his motive, but I didn't like it and destroyed him. The third was split into 2 parts, both forms of lust. The fourth was the concept of comparison. Wait, said Velzard, does this mean our world has them too? These beasts? Not exactly, said Erogon. They're far too young to be a threat, if they even awaken at all. Explain, requested Velzard. The angels and Veldanava's orders keep humans from advancing too far. Human advancement is the nourishment for the beasts. Without progression, the beasts wouldn't grow into a threat big enough to amount to anything. The beasts I can release stay at their current power level and can't grow. Due to my world's destruction, they lost their ability to gain nutrients. I noticed you left the second beast out. Is that Tiamat? Asked Guy. Yes, said Erogon. She is the second beast of humanity, the beast of regression. Regression, Guy whispered, pondering the meaning, as Erogon stood up. Elena and Rain returned to the room. The circle is ready, said Rain. Elena nodded. They headed to the courtyard and saw a 15-foot radius circle made of mercury. This won't do, Erogon said, forcing the circle into a crater 2 feet deep. I will fix that after the summoning, Guy. I know that, Guy replied, looking at the complex sigils. This is beyond any simple summon, even the last one. Elena chuckled slightly. Your thoughts are all over your face, Guy. The Gate of Beasts only holds 7, while the Throne of Heroes holds hundreds of human souls. That is why this circle is so complex. The throne is a simple circle. I see, said Guy. Erogon approached the edge of the crater. Enough, Elena, Erogon said as she stopped laughing. Now, let's begin. He raised his left arm and began the chant. Let silver and iron be thine essence. Let stone and the Archduke of Pax be thine cornerstone. Let's raise a wall against the winds of time that shall fall. Let the 4 cardinal gates close. Let the 3-forked road from the crown reach to the kingdom. Fill, 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 fill. Repeat 5 times, but when each is filled, corrupt it. As the first part of the chant was completed, the mercury in the circle changed into a reddish-black mud, looking like oil ready to burst from the excess magic in the circle. Stage 1 complete, said Erogon. Now to call Tiamat. Heed my words, my will creates your body, and your sword my destiny. If you heed my call and obey my will and reason, then answer me. Let thine celestial chains be unbound from the chains of the heavens. Thou fallen goddess to beasthood turned. I hereby swear that I shall be all the evil in the world. That I shall defeat all good in the world. 7th hell clad in the great words of power. Come forth from the circle of binding, beast of disaster. As Erogon finished the chant, his right arm and many of his body's veins burst from the strain of the spell. Tiamat, the primordial mother, was summoned without incident. Guy watched the ritual and saw the girl who appeared. She wore a blue turquoise dress, with silver blue hair and pink eyes. Her most prominent features were the 2 massive horns protruding from her head. As blood flowed from Erogon's wounds, Elena rushed over to treat him with healing magic. Was that magic overload? How the hell did that happen? No, this girl is a massive risk, but that can wait. How is he? Guy asked. He will be fine, Tiamat said. The skill he gained from me just didn't sit right in his current condition. And what skills did he gain? Asked Guy. Well, to start with, he gained the skills Nega Genesis, Sea of Life, and Mana Reactor, Tiamat explained. As Erogon's wounds healed, he regained consciousness. Well, didn't expect that even with this body double, Erogon said, standing up. This body is a lot weaker than I thought. But it is getting stronger with each passing ally regained. Tiamat walked up to Erogon and started lightly punching him. Don't think I didn't notice you cheated in my summoning to give me a lifespan like hers, Tiamat said, pointing to Velzard. Guy, Elena, and Velzard were shocked. Wait, You can alter that. All three said at once. How? Let thine celestial chains be unbound from the chains of the heavens. Thou fallen goddess to beasthood turned, Erogon recited. The first verse was just to summon Tiamat. It's how both the throne and gate work. That's all I needed, but her unlimited lifespan would be a problem. The second verse was from a servant that imposed death on Tiamat, giving her a new lifespan. It is still a very long life, though. As Guy finally processed the whole summoning, he realized a cruel fact. Others besides Erogon and those like him could use this summoning, but he could not. Elena, how many can you summon? Guy asked. Elena held up one finger. I can only summon one person, and that's it. Erogon has a few more left to summon. Guy rubbed his head. So, let me understand this summoning. You have to know every single detail about them? It's not random? You need at least 75% of their legends, and then you can summon them, but it's better to know more, Erogon said, sitting down after fixing the floor. But after you summon them once, you can call them again at any time. They're not like this world's otherworlders. I see, said Guy. Will you care for a spar, Erogon? Well, that was part of our deal, Erogon replied, stretching his back and arms. Bonus chapter. Erogon's allies' locations on one of the training grounds near the capital of the future Eastern Empire. 3 trainees were being put through their paces in swordsmanship by Mordred. Come on. You 3 outnumber me, and I'm still winning. Mordred taunted. Hey, you have way more experience than us. One of the trainees shouted, and the other 2 nodded in agreement. Then one focus on keeping my attention while the other 2 go for the blind spots. Mordred commanded as their training continued. In a manner overlooking the grounds, Velgrind watched the session from behind a window. Do you think it's safe to trust that Majin? She asked, looking over at Rudra. Rudra was busy studying maps. It's not that I trust her, it's just that we needed assistance training our troops, and she was willing to help, Rudra said, glancing at her. And didn't you say she serves that unknown true dragon your elder brother introduced you to? Yes, said Velgrind, but that dragon's energy was lower than my younger brother's. Much weaker than that Majin's aura. What if, Rudra said, walking toward the window, when you met him, he was in a weakened state and couldn't release his true aura? True, said Velgrind. Well, we can confirm that in a few years at my niece's birthday party. Rudra nodded in agreement. In the city near the Night Rose Palace, Arthur was eating at a tavern, receiving many glares due to her armor and weapon. What, never saw full plate? Bunch of idiots. I can already tell a few of these people are going to try and rob me. As she was finishing her meal, a man sat across from her. So, where did you get that armor? It's quite unique, he said. Is your life worth the price of knowing? Arthur said, glaring at him. He leaned back, physically repelled by the murderous intent she radiated. No, I was just wondering who forged it so I could see if I could get one of my own. The man stuttered. Like I said, Arthur replied, standing up and paying for her meal. There is no forge in this world that can forge this armor. She then pointed to a group of men sitting at a larger table. If you make a stupid bet like that again, I will cut your balls off so you can never have sons again. The men at the table instinctively covered themselves. As she left the tavern, she sensed 3 people watching her from the crowd. These 3 are different from the group in the tavern. I'll deal with them in an isolated place. She headed into the back alleys. As she ducked into a corner, one of the men tried to follow, but Arthur vanished from his sight. Shit! Where did she go? What's with that speed? Said a man with black hair and a nobleman's appearance. He put his hand to his ear. You 2 have eyes on her? After a pause, he cursed. Damn it, where did she go? You guys check the outer perimeter. He sighed, but then stiffened as a lance appeared right beside his neck. So, Arthur whispered, why are you and your buddies following me? Or are you just after my armor? No, the man said quickly. We were asked to bring you to our master, Lord Valentine. Let him know that I won't interfere with his experiments unless one of them interests me, Arthur said. Do you understand? The man nodded vigorously. As soon as he nodded, the lance vanished, and Arthur was gone. He sighed in relief. I think she is going to be a problem, but that is for my lord to decide. He began to walk back toward the Night Rose Palace. Everyone returned to the palace. I just made contact with the target. Well, this place is interesting, just like Erogon said, thought Arthur. Well, let's go by my true name for now, Artoria. She changed her attire to that of a common civilian, hiding her armor and weapon in her storage skill. Abigail headed toward the location where Erogon said a nation would eventually be built. She stopped when she saw a massive tree. Well, they would definitely call this a divine tree for a reason. She began constructing a small hut right below it in preparation. Irisfield traveled to a small, strategic location, the future kingdom of Falmouth. I know I sensed it here during my search. I can't believe it's beneath a newly forming nation. She could sense Erogon's true body deep below the earth. When he awakens, this nation will probably be in ruins. I will have to see whether it is worth saving the citizens or letting them die. She began to help the local population in small ways, teaching simple spells to aspiring magicians. Within a city that would one day become the capital of Ingrassia, both Shayna and Hecate were eating at a tavern. "So, Hecate, what do you think of my idea?" Shayna asked. "Forming an adventurers guild?" Hecate said, chewing on some bread. "It's a nice idea, but we are supposed to keep a low profile." "True," Shayna replied, "but he also said to assist people. I thought we could set up the guild and, after a few years, hand it over to a responsible person to manage." Hecate thought for a moment. "So, you start it up and run it, and I will help spread its influence to other areas," Hecate said, standing up. "I suggest you get support from the local community and nobles first." Hecate headed off to different lands to spread the word of an international guild, one not bound by any single country, but with specific stipulations for times of war. Meanwhile, Shayna began laying the groundwork for the guild's first branch. Chapter 9. True Demon Lord vs. Dimensional Dragon outside the Ice Palace. Both Guy and Erogon prepared for a fight. Elena and Velzard watched from within the palace, having some snacks and drinks to pass the time. "So, who do you think will win?" asked Velzard. "I'd say it's a fair fight," said Elena. "Erogon no longer has his main weapons, and Guy is a veteran of fighting strong opponents." "What do you mean he no longer has his weapons?" Velzard asked. "Just watch," Elena replied. As Erogon and Guy began to flare their auras, the energies met, both dense and equal. "I feel like he's not holding back with his current restrictions," Guy thought. "But if this is just his aura, I wonder what his fighting style will be." Guy charged, and Erogon responded in kind. Every punch was matched by a similar blow. As the saying goes, they matched offense with offense. Erogon attempted a dropkick, which Guy easily dodged, but he didn't expect a tail to come whipping down. Guy took a hit and was forced to a knee. Erogon jumped back, his tail exposed. Unlike his real body, which was covered in residual void energy, this tail was golden, with colors shimmering like a rainbow glistening off the scales. "Did not expect that," said Guy, continuing the attack. He fought like a martial artist in close-quarters combat. "I saw your tail when you woke up. It wasn't that shiny before." "Actually, my scales have always had this golden hue," said Erogon, countering Guy's punches and kicks. "I've just been in the void for so long that the place dulled them. Since coming to this world, they have begun to recover their old glory." He tried to stab Guy with his tail from below, missing by a hair. "Damn. He got used to it quickly," Erogon thought. "Since we match each other in martial prowess, he may draw his sword." Both fighters backed off. "Physically we are the same," thought Guy as he drew his blade. "But what about his swordsmanship?" Erogon created a sword out of water and filled it with magicals. "He doesn't have a real blade? This might be interesting," Guy noted. They charged again, and the clash of their swords sent a shockwave of magical energy through the air. "So he has no real blade," Velzard observed from the balcony. "Not really," said Elena. "His real blades were destroyed in the void. They were living blades that he had to sacrifice to keep us alive while he traversed the void before finding this world." "Does he have different blades than the ones you mentioned?" Velzard asked. "Yeah, but will he draw them?" Elena asked in a darker tone, making Velzard look worried. Below, the blades continued to strike. Erogon was being pushed back. "Damn it, this false blade is not working. I should have summoned Archer before now." "Oh well." Guy swung his blade down, shattering the water sword. Erogon's sense of time slowed to hundredths of a second. "I need an actual weapon. Any will do." He thought of the Hersher weapons and conjured the weapon of the Hersher of origin to block. The surge of power created a wind blade that cut the side of Guy's face. "Sorry, Tsurugi, I'm borrowing this." "What the hell?" Guy thought, checking the wound as it slowly healed. "Why didn't you use that blade from the beginning?" On the right side of Erogon's head, a mask appeared with 2 Oni horns and a simple white and gold design. His aura changed slightly, Guy realized. That blade is emanating a divine aura, but it's not his. It feels like a lesser deity. The blade looked like a futuristic katana with a purple edge and a light purple spine. If you know the game, it's the Hersher of Origin's primary weapon. I don't like to borrow allies' weapons unless I have to, said Erogon, looking at the mask. Looks like we should stop here. Nah, said Guy, preparing his next attack. This is finally getting interesting. Very well, Erogon said, donning the mask. I hate using this skill, but since you agreed. He vanished from Guy's sight and reappeared instantly in front of him, bringing the sword down with one hand. What the heck? Guy thought as he blocked. The strike created a massive crater beneath him. Where did this power come from? His aura didn't change, but it became more refined, sharpened into a blade. Guy let the blade slide off to the side and backed away. Erogon's blade hit the ground. He turned toward Guy but suddenly stopped, looking back at his own arm through the dust. Erogon released his grip on the blade and tried to move his arm. I lost this bout, he said, trying to raise his sword arm, but it wouldn't respond. I think I destroyed my whole arm with that sword swing. Seriously? Guy said, sheathing his sword. You don't know how to control your strength? Hey, Erogon replied as the mask and sword faded away. This was the first fight I've had in many millennia. His arm began to heal slowly. The score is 1-0 in your favor, Guy said, because if you had started with that blade, I would have lost. He put a hand on Erogon's shoulder. Could you explain that skill? Guy's veins were bulging with curiosity. Erogon sighed. It's something I had in my old world. It's like a slime's mimicry skill, but it creates weapons or skills of an ally within a few meters of me. It's also similar to a skill called skill chain. It was part of the contract I made with my allies. Wait, what contract? Guy asked, walking back into the palace. Please explain every detail. They went to the room where Elena and Velzard had been watching. The 2 women were in the middle of a discussion. So, what was that blade he used at the end? Velzard asked. No idea, said Elena. None of our old allies had a blade like that. Most likely that blade was from one of the Hersher weapons within him, she thought. Guy and Erogon entered the room. So, are you fully healed? Elena asked. Yeah, Erogon said, moving his arm. But do you mind helping me if I forget something about my old contracts? He sat down and began explaining. The contract was a simple, give-and-take deal. However, the terms favored the recipient more than Erogon. He gained their skills and abilities, while they gained a lifespan similar to his own. When they arrived in this world, Erogon already possessed their abilities to a lesser degree, but by re-establishing the connection, the power was fully restored. Elena added that in their old world, he would share their pain and could sense their true location regardless of distance. So you lied about your true power, Guy said, pointing at Erogon. Tell the truth. I don't feel their pain anymore, Erogon admitted, but I can tell their general location. And whose blade was that during the fight? Velzard asked. Someone else, Erogon said, looking away. They're fine, I swear. Guy started to expand his aura. Really? Okay. Erogon relented as Guy lowered his pressure. They are like spirits, but they are also lesser divine spirits from a different world. Not this one or mine. They were floating in the void when I found them 400 years ago. I took them within me, and now they learn about the world through my eyes and the eyes of my servants. What are their race and titles? Guy asked seriously. Like I said, they're similar to spirits, but their real race is called Hershers, and each one has their own special title, Erogon explained begrudgingly. They were humans who turned into Hershers. So these Hershers have very powerful abilities, Guy noted. What was the title of the one whose weapon you borrowed? The Hersher of Origin, said Erogon. Her name is Tsurugi. That is the name I gave her. Wait, Guy said. Did you name each and every one of them? Erogon nodded, and Guy accidentally broke the table. Okay. I know Elena isn't a divine being, just a byproduct of you, and you named lesser divine beings. So I want to know, Guy braced himself, what category of divine being are you? I know there are at least 3 categories, Velzard added. Lesser, greater, and superior beings. That sword gave off the energy of a greater divine being on the lower end of the scale. Guy just wants to know your level of divinity. I would estimate my full power to be at the level of a superior divinity, said Erogon. But if I got truly serious, I would put my true strength on the high end, far stronger than your brother, he said, looking at Velzard. Guy pondered this. So his true strength is a superior on the highest spectrum. That means his current strength is in the greater divine scale. Milam's birthday is in a few days, Velzard said, breaking the tension. I see, said Erogon, getting up and yawning. And Guy, I don't plan to harm the world in any impactful way whatsoever. He walked away as Guy waved off the comment. Elena followed close behind. Once the door closed in their room, Erogon nearly collapsed, but Elena caught him. You always try to hide your condition, but you can't hide it from me, she said. Erogon sighed. Sorry, I just transferred the damage to a different location in my body. I had to get out of there fast, or I would have collapsed during the discussion about the Herschers. All right, drop the illusion, Elena said sternly. Erogon complied, and the real damage was revealed. His body was covered in micro-cuts, but his right arm was completely destroyed, as if it had exploded from the inside out. You idiot, Elena whispered. I saw you use your divinity in that arm. Since this is just a dragonoid body and not your true dragon body, it shattered every muscle and bone. This will take more than a few days to heal. Well, I can't hold her then, Erogon said with a weak smile. You'll have to do that for me. Elena responded with a light hand chop to his head. Rest, you idiot. Elena cast a sleeping spell. As Erogon drifted off, she sensed someone outside. He is resting, Guy. You can come in. Guy entered and saw the true extent of the damage as Elena began bandaging the wounds. Is this what divinity does to someone when their body isn't ready? Guy asked. Yes. It can even happen if a person has too many magicals and no way to vent them, Elena explained. Why are you here? I placed a sleep spell on him so he can rest. She started to lead him out. We need to talk. They went into the hall, where Velzard was waiting. Both women looked pissed. First, Elena began. Erogon's wounds will heal because of his divinity, but if he had used just a little bit more, his entire arm would have blown off. I'm lucky those Herschers suppressed the damage and transferred some of it to themselves. I noticed that, Velzard added. They literally stopped time to keep the divinity from expanding. That much divinity could have easily killed anyone weaker than us immediately. Guy was quiet for a minute. How long until those Herschers can fully materialize in this world? I know it sounds like I don't care, but I just like a good fight. By my calculations, Elena said, 500 to 600 years, give or take a decade. And was this his first serious fight in this world? Guy asked. Yes, Tiamat said, materializing suddenly. Then we were lucky, Guy said. Elena glared at him. Think about it. If he had faced someone a lot weaker than me and accidentally obliterated them, how would he feel? Elena softened, pondering his words. Erogon is still used to our old world. He hasn't fought anyone here until you. So you did this to show him the power scaling of this world, Tiamat observed. That makes sense. Watching that fight showed me how dangerous my Sea of Life skill truly is. Guy nodded. How much will he be healed in 3 days? Velzard asked. He'll be able to move his arm, but picking up anything heavy is a no-go, Elena said. And I mean heavy for a human. Damn, thought both Velzard and Guy. Tiamat simply nodded. Chapter 10. Birthday and despair. A few days after the battle, Erogon had healed enough to look fine without an illusion. Guy, Velzard, Elena, Tiamat, and Erogon, along with a hooded figure, were flying towards Veldanava's home for the party starting in a few hours. Morgan, said Elena, you could have stayed behind. No, my lady, said the hooded woman. It is my duty to serve and protect you. Elena sighed. You take the servant pact way too far, said Elena, as Velzard started laughing. Luckily none of your servants do that, Guy, Erogon, said Velzard, laughing at Morgan's words and seeing Erogon's depressed face. Oh, said Erogon, I have one that is worse, and she's clingy. We're almost there, said Guy, looking at a small house near the woods. As they landed, Veldanava greeted them. He looked at Erogon, then back at Guy. I'm surprised you aren't dead, he said, gesturing to Erogon's arm. It was a learning experience for me, said Erogon, on how weak this double is. Veldanava nodded. Well, Milam's asleep, so come on in and see my wife, said Veldanava. Just then, a small dragon came running out of the house with a woman around 30 to 40 years old with platinum pink hair chasing it. Get back here, you little... The woman shouted. Velzard picked up the baby dragon. Oh, I didn't realize you had arrived, Velzard, guy. Her eyes scanned the group until they met Erogon's. Who are our other guests? They're the true dragons from the other world I mentioned a few days ago, said Veldanava. I invited them when Guy was over last. I remember now, said the woman, walking up to Erogon and holding out her hand. The name is Lucia. Erogon accepted the handshake. Erogon started, but Lucia suddenly gut-punched him. That hurt. Damn it, Mom, your influence on her is a little strong. Just by the exchange, I can tell she has a foresight skill. Okay. What did you do? Asked Veldanava. Nothing, said Erogon, getting back up. Let's just say it was an old greeting from an old friend. I just had the urge to hit him for some reason, that's all, Lucia said, smiling and walking back into the house with everyone except Erogon and Veldanava. Okay, explain, Veldanava asked. Your wounds, and why did my wife hit you? First, my wounds were caused by using my real divinity in this weaker body during a spar with Guy, said Erogon. And second, your wife has a decent amount of my old mother's soul within her. Don't worry, my mother is one of the few people I can't awaken, no matter how much I try. Okay, said Veldanava, walking toward the house. Velgrind will be here soon with her human friend. Erogon followed behind him. I heard from Guy his name was Rudra? Yep, Veldanava replied. After a few hours, there was a knock on the door. Lucia answered. Ah, brother and Velgrind, it's nice to see you again. And I see you dragged Veldora here as well. Rudra, Velgrind, and Veldora had arrived, accompanied by a girl with blonde hair and green eyes. Who is she? A guard that insisted on coming, said Rudra. As they entered the room, Erogon easily recognized the guard. She's cool, Lucia, said Erogon. She's one of my subordinates. Her name is Mordred. He looked at Mordred. No fighting here, got that? Yes, my lord, said Mordred, eyeing Morgan. So, Rudra's opinion was spot on. His aura was weakened by something else at the time, Velgrind thought. But for Erogon, is this his real power? Probably not. It feels constricted somehow. So, how have you been, Erogon? Asked Velgrind. And why is your subordinate helping us train some of our new soldiers? No idea about the soldiers. They do as they please when I have no orders for them, said Erogon. And I have been well. He sensed a presence behind a wall and smiled slightly. Looks like the birthday girl is awake, he whispered. Moments ago, a girl who looked 16 years old stirred in her bed. She felt unfamiliar auras in the house alongside her parents, aunts, and uncles. She dressed and slowly approached the room. Peeking in, she saw her mother and father, aunts Velzard and Velgrind, and uncles Veldora and Rudra. There were 4 new people. 2 felt like her father's aura from before the baby dragon was born. The one with the horns had a lesser dragon's aura, and the one that looked like a soldier felt like her mother. Oh, Milam, said Lucia, I didn't know you were awake. I felt unfamiliar auras in the house, said Milam, still a little tired. I came to see who it was. Well, it's true you haven't met them yet, said Veldanava, but they're like your distant cousins. Their names are Erogon, Elena, Tiamat, Mordred, and Morgan. Each nodded as their name was called. Cousins? Milam asked. Erogon got up, walked over to Milam, and squatted to her level. He patted her head. They're like your aunts and uncles, just not directly related to you. He stopped patting her head and created a dragon made of clear quartz. He injected some magic into it, and it started to move. Your father invited us to celebrate your 10th birthday. Erogon gave Milam the small dragon. Eventually, it will run out of magic. If you want it to move, pour some of your own magic into it. Milam nodded excitedly and started showing it off. As Milam played, Erogon's left eye started to sting. He closed it and saw a glimpse of the future, the deaths of Veldanava and Lucia in a few minutes due to an explosion, followed by Milam's rage and her transformation into a demon lord. Immediately, he opened thought communication with Veldora, Velzard, Velgrind, Tiamat, Elena, and Guy. Everyone, keep calm and don't react to what I'm about to say, they all agreed, maintaining their composure. What is about to happen is a fixed point in time. Even with my true power, I can't change it. Velgrind, keep Rudra safe. Yes, answered Velgrind. When Milam comes back to me, I will cast a sleeping spell so she doesn't see their deaths, though she will feel it. Guy, Elena, Tiamat, I want you to return with Milam to the Ice Palace and request aid from Ramirez to control her outburst of power when she awakens. The three agreed. So, Milam and Ramirez are the next two demon lords, Guy responded. Yes, responded Erogon. As Milam finished showing off her gift to everyone, she returned to Erogon's side. Veldanava and Lucia, I will keep my promise to you both. I see, said Veldanava. I will hold you to it. Erogon cast a strong sleep spell on Milam just as a large fireball came crashing through the window, blowing up the entire building. A few moments later, a military force of around 15,000 troops surrounded the ruins. They saw a giant pair of flaming wings protecting Erogon and the sleeping Milam. Elena, Guy, Tiamat, and Velzard had not needed protection from the blast. Velgrand had protected Rudra, while Morgan and Mordred shifted into spiritual forms and then materialized again. You fools have no idea what you've done, said Erogon, visibly pissed off. Rudra, a question for you. Does a king stand alone? Yes, a king must stand alone, Rudra said without hesitation. Erogon grinned. No, Erogon answered. You don't know what I mean. 8 magic circles appeared. Guy recognized them as summoning circles. A king must be greedier than any other. He must laugh more loudly. The circles began to glow. He must rage for much longer and embody the extreme of all things, good and evil. That is why his retainers envy his very existence and adore him, and why the flames of aspiration to be like the king burn within his people. The circles flashed one by one as Erogon's servants were summoned. Proud young king, watch this fight and see how an old king does battle. Erogon transformed his appearance to look like Milam and dashed into the army with his servants. The battle lasted for 2 full hours. Erogon, in Milam's form, used his bare hands to rip limbs from soldiers, snatching spears and swords to hurl them at others. One servant, a Medusa-like woman, used her size and claws to crush soldiers into paste. 4 other servants, a burly man with red hair, a fair maiden with blonde hair and purple eyes, a girl with white hair and yellow eyes, and another with black hair, tore through the ranks with swords and spears. Another girl with white hair, red eyes, and split black horns wore a black kimono and unleashed dragon flames. Finally, a Kijin with dark purple hair and a purple kimono used poison mist. By the time they were finished, the soldiers' corpses were covered in wounds, burns, and boils. Erogon returned to his human form. Ishtar, I saw you didn't fight. He began walking back to the destroyed house. Well, I was making sure your aura matched that young girl's, said the servant, who had black hair and golden eyes, wearing a 2-piece swimsuit. Besides, I was keeping your divinity in check as a fellow divine being. And even though you're stronger than me in divinity, I get to tease you for now. Notice, individual Milam Nava's harvest festival has begun. Notice, individual ErogonWolf Bane's second seal is about to break. As the notice ended, Erogon coughed up blood and corrupted magicules. What the hell, he gasped. This was nothing like when the first seal broke. He began to lose consciousness. Dang, master, the burly man said, catching him. Don't fall asleep yet, but it looks like that's an impossibility. Erogon was already fast asleep. Within the dwelling of spirits, Ramirez was watching the world. She felt 2 massive pressures, one she recognized, and one she didn't. I have to go, she cried, dashing toward the location. If those powers clash, the world could be devastated beyond recognition. Sir Rudra and Lady Velgrand, said Tiamat, I would suggest leaving quickly to escape the fallout that is about to occur. I couldn't agree with you more, Rudra replied, feeling the pressure from Erogon's sleeping body and Milam's rapidly growing aura. As Rudra and Velgrand fled, Ishtar placed a barrier to suppress the auras and prevent the dead from rising. Forgive me, Lady Milam, but Erogon gave this cruel order. The other servants moved to the cardinal directions to support the barrier. Mordred went with Rudra and Velgrand. Elena held Erogon in her arms, while Veldora scared away any would-be observers. Velzard let the sleeping Milam rest on her lap. So, what are you going to do now? Guy asked, looking at Morgan. My duty is to protect my master, said Morgan, summoning a black halberd. That is my only duty. And Sir Guy, I am detecting a person approaching at very high speed. Most likely Ramirez, said Guy, looking into the distance. Yep, that's Ramirez. She should be here in a few days. Suddenly, A loud cracking noise echoed from Erogon. A crack formed from his right arm all the way up to his right eye. The fissures grew quickly, and a golden hue shone through as his arm burst into a draconic limb with scales the same color as his tail. Elena quickly bit her finger and fed Erogon some of her blood. The arm immediately reverted to human form. "What did you do?" Guy asked curiously. "In our old world, there was a poison that is a double-edged sword," Elena explained. "I didn't know if it would be effective here, but the main ingredient is dragon blood or bone." Velzard looked shocked. "There are degrees of toxicity per dragon," Tiamat added. "A lesser dragon's parts couldn't affect a true dragon, but if someone got hold of Erogon's blood, they could kill any dragon in this world." Tiamat burned the traces of Erogon's blood on the ground. "It's like how lesser creatures can't stand being near stronger monsters. It's just that this poison was made from greater dragon parts." Guy examined Erogon and saw his divinity and magicule count lowering to a manageable level. He was resting peacefully, but Milam's aura continued to swell to unmanageable heights. "This isn't good," Guy said. "Get Erogon out of here." "No," said Elena. "As soon as I move Erogon, the barrier goes down." "Do it," Guy commanded. "If he gets attacked by Milam in his unconscious state, he might automatically counterattack. I know you can use teleportation magic. Go to the Ice Palace." Elena nodded and vanished, taking Erogon with her. As soon as they disappeared, all of Erogon's servants, including Morgan, vanished as well. The barrier dissipated, and Milam's aura exploded as she woke up and went on a rampage.